Welcome back everybody, and today, with this video, we will be talking about Resident Evil Revelations 2, which is kind of like well, the unloved stepchild of Capcom's Resident Evil franchise. For those who are unaware, the Revelations and Revelations 2 were rushed projects that Capcom didn't really care that much about, but they turned out to actually be some of the better games that were coming out between like Resident Evil 4 and 7. So we'll go ahead and talk about Revelations 2, since I've played through this one a few times, and I haven't played through the first one yet, so maybe I'll do that and do a video on that one as well. Today, we will be using gameplay footage almost or completely exclusively from the game's raid mode, and I'm also going to be trying some new audio effects and stuff, tools at my disposal if you will, thanks to the wonderful Audacity software that I utilize, considering I still don't have a fantastic microphone yet. But let's get into the game. So the game itself is done in an episodic way. There was 4 different episodes. Unfortunately, you have to pay for all 4 of these episodes individually. They're fairly cheap at this point on most game stores. I've played it through Steam, and I also played it on Xbox at some point or another, or PlayStation rather. I'm sorry, I played it on PlayStation 3 at one point or another. Overall, though, the storytelling isn't bad. Like, let's dig into the single player a little bit here. So the big selling point that got me to even try this game out, because it came out in a time where Resident Evil games were kind of shit. Let's be honest with ourselves. But it came out, and the lead character on the cover was Claire Redfield, whom is a character I've always been really fond of. I thought she was a badass in Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil Code Veronica, and she's always been my favorite character of the franchise. So generally, I like to give games that have her in them the benefit of the doubt and give them a shot. So this one, though, it doesn't just cover her. So like I said, there's 4 episodes, and each episode is broken down into 2 parts. I'm not going to spoil anything for you or anything here, but essentially, the game breaks down into the first section of the episode is being played through Claire and her companion Moira, who is Barry Burton's daughter. And then there's the second episode, or the second part of the episode rather, where you're playing through with Barry Burton and this girl Natalia that he meets on the island. And the storytelling is, well, it's very Resident Evil. It's very much a Resident Evil game. There's genuinely pretty good spooks to be had. I got caught off guard pretty early on. There's no Albert Wesker. This is post Albert Wesker dying. Sorry if that's a spoiler, but there is a Wesker here. They explore Alex Wesker as a character, as a villain, an antagonist, and I think that she was interesting. Not exactly the strongest antagonist that we've ever seen in a Resident Evil game, but not the weakest either. So, kind of somewhere in the middle, nicely. As far as the raw gameplay goes, this was a further development of Resident Evil 4's over-the-shoulder gameplay, and thankfully at that, because the old tank controls are just brutal in the old games. Just brutal. Graphically speaking, the game looks pretty good though, so that's always nice. It has aged fairly well. It looks pretty good on PC. It looked pretty good on PlayStation 3. I'm sure it looks good on Xbox too. But we're not talking about PS3 or Xbox, because we played it on PC. So the raw gist of the gameplay though, the whole having a companion thing, it ties in to a lot of the puzzles. You need to utilize the assistance of your companion. You can switch between playing with the 2 of them, so you can play all of Claire and Moira's sections just with Moira if you really want to. I've done it before. It's harder, but you know, it's not undoable. And it's worth mentioning that a game over occurs when Barry or Claire dies, whereas Moira or Natalia technically don't die. I disagree. I disagree with the whole Natalia and Moira don't die, but that's the choice they made. then that's what we got to deal with. It has a raid mode, and it's one of the better raid modes. I remember I played a lot of Resident Evil 5's raid mode back when that was still the newest Resident Evil, and I've always enjoyed the raid mode personally. I've always found that it's a good way to just enjoy the action of the game. I don't recall if Resident Evil 4 had a raid mode in it or not, but the raid mode here seems to be pretty fleshed out. There's a whole chronological order of stages to do, and since it's connected to the online, you can get perks from the Resident Evil website. You can get just all manner of cool stuff that way. You can unlock a variety of different characters from the story. You can, if you have the DLC, you can play as Albert Wesker or Jill Valentine. There's a good amount of options there, and there's definitely a lot of gameplay time in the raid mode. The raid mode has more hours of gameplay than the story does, front to back. Now, a lot of the stages will get rehashed with just like amped up difficulty, and you'll fight a lot of monsters that you didn't see in the story and stuff like that. So it's not like every stage is going to be some brand new, completely unique experience or anything in that sense. It's just going to be, after a certain amount of stages, you're just going to start seeing the same stages again, just with harder shit. And that's just kind of how they decided to do that. So again, it wasn't the most like creative way to do it, but it's kind of what you would expect out of a rushed project that really was Resident Evil Revelations 2. I think it had like less than a year of development time, if I recall correctly. So definitely a lot of issues. There's some plot holes. There's some debate. There's two endings. Mind. There's definitely two endings that you can have. And in true rushed game fashion, it all boils down to one decision rather than a series of decisions made throughout the story. And the decision is not even like made obvious to you. The game did have DLC sequences, one focusing on Natalia and one focusing on Moira. I haven't played through those yet, but from what I've read, they seem solid. Moira's is like more of a survival thing in the sense of like actually surviving, and then Natalia's is kind of like a hide and seek game of sorts, like a really spooky hide and seek. And I've heard that they're definitely equipped with some scares. And it all takes place on some random ass island in the middle of nowhere, because of course it does. And I will say this, the only thing I'm going to say about the final chapter of the game is that Barry Burton is a fucking badass, and nobody can take that away from him. The whole game, he's just such a badass. Like, I came into this game to play Claire's sequences, but then it's like, you know, you get to that point where you see Barry on his boat coming to rescue his daughter, and it's like, oh my god, dude. Oh my god. Barry's a hardcore, and he stays hardcore the whole time. He doesn't ever not be hardcore, and I love it. And Claire is of course hardcore, but she's been hardcore since Resident Evil 2. The raid mode also allows you to play online co-op. You cannot play online co-op with the single player. You can play local co-op with the single player, but not online co-op. There was reward codes at one point or another that were given out, I guess, for the raid mode too, for the website and stuff, but PC never got any of them. So if you're like me and you prefer to play games on PC, you kind of got the shit end of the stick with that one, but that's fine. It's an old game. You can't really expect there to be any codes for free shit going on right now anyway. That's just kind of the nature of it. As far as the replayability, the story has two endings, but it also does all boil down to one decision. But that said, there's also a lot of unlockables like infinite ammo weapons and rocket launchers and shit that you can unlock to just enhance your experience in that way. And it has the traditional Resident Evil scoring systems in place where you get points based on how you performed. And then there's also like a skill system, which was a weird choice, but it definitely makes the game a lot easier. The more you play it and the more points you invest in these skills, makes your characters better. Now, while the infinite weapons and stuff will cap out your rank at like A, for missions. The skills do not, so that makes it a lot easier to do S rank stuff. There are several difficulty options. You can play it on normal or hard, and I believe there's also an easy mode, I think. Not sure. But there's also an easy mode, or not, there's possibly also an easy mode, but there is difficulty selection. But there's a whole lot of unlockables for the gallery, as well as the infinite weapons and stuff. So between the difficulties, the two endings, and all the unlockables, the replay value really depends on what do you want to accomplish in this game. What is it that you're looking for out of Resident Evil Revelations 2? Do you want to unlock all of the stuff? Do you want to get all the achievements? Or do you just want to play through the story and just kind of see what happens, maybe play through it a second time, see the other ending you didn't get, and then after you see both endings, go online to argue with people about which one's canon. It seems to be the discussion that I've seen a lot. Of course, we haven't seen any of these characters in any of the Resident Evil games that have come out since, so while Capcom has said which ending is a canon ending, we don't have any gameplay footage or story arcs from a new Resident Evil game to really imply that. That none of these characters show up in Resident Evil 7. That's for damn sure. So definitely solid though. I can see why a lot of people will skip on it. I can see a lot of people not liking the episodic structure and having to buy each episode individually as its own thing. But if you don't mind that, and you don't mind spending a little bit of extra money on it, then honestly, it might be the move. This might be, a decent way to spend some of your time. And lately we've all got a lot of it. So, thank you again for watching. That'll do it for this one. I'll fucking see you guys later.